And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say it
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Worry about yourself.
Worry about myself. You're talking about.
I had an important take that I had to share with you that was pertinent to the show. God forbid one of us has a little bit of, just trying to get the show moving here. Trying to get a little pre-show.
That's getting
going.
The show juice moving. Talking about farting yourself awake.
I didn't. That's crazy.
That's what you're trying to get the show moving with.
What's said during the open while no one can hear us is not something that you divulge to the listeners. That's crazy.
You've
just aired
been
me out
screaming
like
at me
you just
for the last
me
2
like
minutes.
That? You just doxed me like that.
2 minutes you've been
I
screaming
was
in my
just
ears.
trying to make sense of something that happened to me this morning, but we're not going to talk about it. Welcome back to Hack City. DeLeone and Sean Anderson. Today we're going to be recapping the 2025 NFL Draft. We're going to be analyzing some of the biggest storylines that now come after the draft. 4 that I cooked up. There's a 5th one that I realized I didn't write down that we're going to get to as well, that I want to pitch to Sean and help me figure out what is going to happen during this 2025 football season. We're also going to talk about a phenomenon that's happening on Twitter where people think that 100 men could beat one gorilla. Might be one of the stupidest things that I've ever seen. And then we've also, of course, got the hack bag at the end of the show. Before we get there, Sean, can you share with our listeners a word from BetOnline?
Oh, BetOnline, a.k.a. the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action, that BetOnline? Yeah, I'd be happy to share some words about them. I'd be also happy to encourage those who like sports betting and wagering on games and all the options that they have at BetOnline, the NBA, NHL playoffs, MLB, damn near every single day, everything you need. If you're dealing with people that are talking about, I'm giving you a lock, I've got this, I've got that, make sure you really trust them, because I have a couple bridges that got burned this weekend, and I will be taking no further locks, and they are on a temporary 2-month suspension.
Hold on. What happened?
You happened.
Oh.
But we're not going to get into the minutia of it.
Oh, because I can't award it on you because my bet hit and yours didn't?
At this
you
moment.
Bet against me?
We're not going to get into the minutia. We're going to talk about some BetOnline. And with the ability to bet on every single sport that you need, you can also head to their casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker, and their live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.
All right, Sean, 2025 NFL Draft is now behind it. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I thought you were talking about the Rockets game last night. You were talking about that. Well, I paid you back.
That was courteous of you.
I didn't have to do that, but I did.
Well, I don't have to pay for the TV, but now you have me doing that this week or this month.
Well, yeah, you are paying me back for the TV.
Well, yeah. Month. Yeah, because you made good.
Okay. I shouldn't have said that.
I did. Well, I'm glad you did.
Pass some money back and forth. All right, we're here to talk about the 2025 NFL Draft. First storyline that really caught my attention. Dallas Cowboys come out of this draft class doing some amazing things, but they didn't address their most important need. Their most important need being wide receiver. They got Tyler Booker to shore up the interior of their offensive line. They got Siobhan Ravel, who has the potential to become an all-pro caliber corner. He is Antonio Cromartie reincarnated. They also got Donovan Ezeraku with great value to join an already pretty stout pass rush. It's going to be tough to throw the ball against this defense. But they didn't draft a wide receiver. They didn't draft one early. They didn't draft one at all. They drafted 2 running backs. They drafted Phil Maffa and Jayden Blue. 2 good running backs, but an already crowded, weird accumulation of random names that they had during free agency. So this is a really weird draft in offseason, to no surprise from Jerry Jones. I need you to help me figure out, can the Dallas Cowboys with this current offensive roster compete, win the NFC East, or at least get to the playoffs in 2025?
No, they're just wasting time right now. And while they had I will agree, successful draft by their standards, Are they aiming to make Jayden Blue an Antonio Gibson type player? Because I know he had prowess receiving the ball out of the backfield. I think he's a pretty good running back that can also catch the ball, but he's a running back. Who is Dak Prescott going to be throwing the rock to this year? CeeDee Lamb might break the record for targets in a season. He probably will. Other than that, the Cowboys also aren't instilling a bunch of faith in me that they're going to be running the ball a ton because they didn't go out and sign a big-time running back. They got good pieces. Maffa, good piece. Blue, good piece. Rest of the running back room, decent pieces. What is the offensive game plan here? Is it just going to be Sloppenheimer balance and we're going to just boringly try to march down the field 3-and-out Cowboys? Because it's likely leaning that.
I think Brian Sloppenheimer's goal is that he wants to run the rock.
Mhm.
They're just going to rotate 4 running backs. It's like in Madden when you turn up the auto sub on running backs, you put it all on 99. So like every snap, we got a new running back coming in. We're all just bringing a new running back. Oh, it's third down. We're going to put a new running back, different guy that we're going to have in there. Jayden Blue, you're going to go catch a pass. We're going to bring Javonte Williams. Oh, now Phil Maffa's going to take the second and short carry. You're just going to keep running backs in. Not going to throw the ball.
That's great.
No balance.
That's fantastic. But why would you then pay Dak Prescott so much money and CeeDee Lamb so much money if we are going to let those two players fall by the wayside? Just do it yourself now. You guys are the cornerstones. I get that
question.
But where is it? Because the investment in dollars is going to a certain scheme of offense, while the investment in players brought in is not reflecting that.
I feel like really conflicted about talking about their draft class because, again, I love it. Like, I really love the value of what they got. I am anti-reach. I am anti-take the best player available, and that's what they did. They probably really wanted Ashton Jeanty and Ted McMillan. It's an assumption, but that would have been perfect for them. Those would have been perfect picks. Tyler Booker's there on the board. Ryan and I on A to Z Film Room reported Ryan had really good sourcing to tell us that the NFL loved Tyler Booker than everybody else did. And that came to fruition. He's a hard-nosed, great leader. That is going to elevate this team. To what your point is, I can understand the philosophy of just simply in a vacuum, written on a piece of paper, they're going to run the football. They're going to try and run the football. They're going to try and be hard-nosed. They're going to run it down your throat. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the way that this looks when we look at the actual roster doesn't add up. It's 4 random running backs. Not one of them is a premier former Pro Bowler. There's no Derrick Henry in here. There's no Saquon Barkley.
Well, they couldn't have signed Henry last year. He was only a free agent for months and wanted to play in Dallas.
Sure. And they have one of the highest paid quarterbacks. They have one of the highest paid receivers and nothing else. The approach should have been with Schloppenheimer was to build out an arsenal of receivers. Like I almost would have thought, and it sucks to say this, the Ezeraku and Siobhan Ravel picks, they could have maybe approached it similarly to what the Houston Texans did, where they already had a decent receiving room, and they said, we're going to go all in. We're going to take Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll.
Yeah.
I think that might have been better suited for what the current weaknesses are of this roster.
Well, we also know Micah wasn't happy per his BR stream on Thursday that he thought that the Cowboys were getting Ted McMillan. He thought about it. Big reaction. Great. I'm sure that's great optics for Dallas also having their next premier player.
I didn't see this, that he
was not thrilled. And he made a face when Booker was drafted, swayed after Booker was drafted because Tyler Booker's Tyler Booker and he's here to kick some ass. And any football player will like that. I do like that. But the cornerstone of your defense and one of the draft prospects that you really nailed, going on a stream and being visibly confused by the picks and the decisions being made, especially in the first round, not a good look. Dallas still stuck in the mud. They good pieces that they drafted. You are completely right about that. But just because that is taking place doesn't mean they're taking a better step forward for their entire team and the approach. It's like they drafted with no context. It's a brand new year and everything that happened last year is gone, wiped. You can't approach that in the NFL draft. That's lazy and it's unaware. And you will have a mediocre year again because you are not contextualizing what happened last year and what we need to do this year.
I do think that they improved in some areas of weakness, but having to figure out what's happening at receiver does really make me scratch my head. They should go trade for George Pickens. I know that it's not exactly like a total
fire me up
personality fit, but you need something. You need that contested catch point guy to play opposite of CeeDee Lamb, which you thought you were getting with Ted McMillan.
You know the different conversation we'd be having if they traded for Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp not even being like a super hot free commodity this offseason, but if they had Cooper Kupp, I'd be looking at this whole thing differently. Or Devontae Adams.
If they went after
in the offseason, the free agency.
Right, and the craziest thing is like how hard would it have been to have brought either of those guys in? Like even if Devontae Adams, he's kind of towards the end of his career. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. There's generally a question with the both of them of like, how much more juice do they really have? Mostly with Kupp because he's been banged up. Devontae Adams, I think that there's a hope and a desire that he actually ends up being pretty productive this year. I think we both agree that we think he will be. He was one of our favorite free agent signings. But to your point, at the very least, even if they're even half of themselves, that's better than the current room of receivers that you have.
Yeah.
The whole room.
Completely mismanaged approach, top to bottom. Good draft, Dallas. I'm not going to knock you on that, but everything else is suspect.
All right. The next storyline that I want to talk about, Cam Ward. This past year, Sean, we watched Jayden Daniels ascend and carry the Commanders to the playoffs. So now I ask you, can Cam Ward drag the Titans to the playoffs this year, win the AFC South, a very up and down and inconsistent division? Can Cam Ward have as good of, not saying replicable, but can Cam Ward have a strong enough of a rookie season to will the Titans to the playoffs?
Not this year. I'm not ruling it out for next year. Not this year, though, because he's not certifiably going to win the AFC South, even with the Titans doing good things. He is not going to be right now better than CJ Stroud, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I mock openly and consistently, are still a step ahead of the Tennessee Titans. And I'm just, two morons fighting at the bottom between Tennessee and Indianapolis also. Right. They have inspired no confidence in me, especially at the quarterback position. So right now, no. But the fallout from Cam Ward, his reaction, the way that he has handled himself, and the way that we can look back on the pre-draft clips differently now after this draft, revisionist history-wise, I'm all in. I am all in. I posted a Cam Ward picture to my story after he got the call, my Instagram story. I don't do that. I
did find that a little bit random. Like,
I'm moved by the kid. Dude, I have become a fan. I am a Cam Ward fan through and through. Was a fan of him at Incarnate Word, Washington State, was pulling for him at Miami. I can root for this kid. That's the most important thing that Tennessee has. You couldn't really root for Will Levis. You wanted to, but at the same time, he did things that were so absurd on a football field, a professional NFL field, that you couldn't fully go all in. Cam Ward, I can do that. Tennessee should be excited. They are still too young and too green to really make that push this season.
We've got a real meeting of the minds, by the way, happening in the chat. I'm looking at all these names happening. But I appreciate everyone who's tuning in. We've got two giant goofballs and then Boner Fairy. Those are two good names, two quality names.
Happy to have them. Very happy to have
Boner Fairy. Two words I don't think I'd ever say in succession, like next to one another.
You know what?
Do you think you would ever say Boner Fairy next to?
No, I've been on ferries and I've never thought
you've never had a boner on a ferry before?
I genuinely haven't.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you haven't.
It's good.
To get back to the Titans, though, they're playing in a division where all of these teams are trying to figure out their identities. They all have young quarterbacks. They all are trying to get back on track. The Jaguars are the best challenge to now win the AFC South with Travis Hunter. I think that completely takes them over the top. But I truly do believe that Cam Ward is the type of quarterback that can improvise, that can evade pressure, that can make the late game plays to take their team over the top, just like he did with Miami. I see this Titans team and believe that it's very similar to what he took over at Miami this past year. And I love what they did at receiver in this draft class. Chimere Dike is a decent guy that you're adding into the mix. He's a good athlete, not going to be crazy productive, but bringing in Alec Ayomanor for where they drafted him is tremendous value. He is a great route runner. He's an underrated athlete. He's got pretty reliable hands. And he also, here's the best part about all of this. Anyone who remembers old Pac-12 football, the final season.
I'm glad.
Alec Ayomanor versus Travis Hunter. And Alec Ayomanor cooked Travis Hunter 2 years ago. the entire game when Stanford played Colorado. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that that's proof that he's going to kick Travis Hunter's ass this upcoming year. Not what I'm saying. But I'm so glad that that can now be recreated twice a year. And I'm hoping that this turns into some sort of rivalry and that L.A.K.O. Manor plays to the hype that I and many other draft analysts have put on him. I do, though, just generally, I think that this team does have some bones to be a scrappy, unexpected playoff team. Just like last year, I predicted that Jayden Daniels was going to take the Commanders to the playoffs.
I'm glad you pulled up the Alec Manor. There we go. That is a very sneaky draft pick by Tennessee. Obviously, I'm sure we're doing all their due diligence on Travis Hunter, and you had to, hey, dog ear that one for me. Can we put a pin in this kid that burned him a couple years ago?
You think that was intentional?
Oh,
they saw the Travis Hunter pick, and they're like, you know what? All right, bet. We're gonna just take the guy who cooked them.
I think it was intentional. I think it's smart. I think it's crafty. Why? If I'm playing Jacksonville twice a year, I want the only kid that's ever really had an edge on Travis Hunter on my team. I would like that. That is a rudimentary way to go about drafting, but at the same time, base level, smart. I really appreciated this. The Titans will have ceiling for me 6 wins this year.
Okay, so after all that conversation we just had, you just completely crap.
We have to be realistic.
Come on.
Every year there's teams that have to end up with 6 wins, and that's not harsh either. That's not harsh.
No, you're being way. I'm not coming here saying that they're the Commanders and they have like 12 wins. I'm not saying that. I think that they could be a 9-win football team and sneak their way in. And I think the AFC South is going to be a crapshoot again.
It will be, but the AFC is still thick. It's still a thick conference. There's going to be a lot of teams. The AFC West is going to have 3 candidates. This is minutia, especially for August, but you're not going to have 2 representatives from the AFC South, and I don't think they beat out the Texans this year, even though the Texans have threw everything out this offseason.
All right, let's move on to talking about my New York Giants. We broke down on the NFL channel that we're kind of, people are probably trying to figure out what the hell we're doing. By the way, we're moving all the NFL content to another channel. If anyone spotted that we're doing that, go subscribe to that channel. It's just Hack City NFL. We're trying to differentiate. This channel is eventually going to be purely college stuff, but I mean, today ends up being the perfect mix between the two.
Yeah.
I already shared my thoughts on the Jackson Dart thing. I don't want to rehash it. I am incredibly disappointed with the pick, and sure, fine, we can rehash it. Sean, do you think that the New York Giants did enough in this draft, in free agency, to compete for a playoff spot in 2025? Because I think that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll think that they did.
The New York Giants did enough to be as good, if not better, than the Dallas Cowboys. They have cemented themselves, in my opinion, as the lurking 3 spot in the NFC East. Way better than a year before. Way better than the year before that, where it was 2 straight years of seller prediction. There's no momentum. What's happening? And this is also compounded with the great draft pick of Malik Neighbors a year prior being there. You have an offensive star. You draft a defensive star this year. You layer it with good depth. You find the Giants' fan favorite running back of this millennia in Cam Skattebo.
Give him 26. Give Cam Skattebo number 26. Damn it. I need him. I need that man to wear number 26 more than I need anything in this world.
The Giants have been the hideous mix of bad and boring and ugly sloppy, but I'm just going to categorize it as bad and boring. This draft, fun. Some bad picks, but fun. And that's all I can ask for a team that is bad. Take some swings at guys that maybe have character that could be overlooked for this reason. Skattebo, slow, white, but you're still drafting them and you're still investing.
Skattebo
I like Skattebo. I do, but they're taking swings, and that's what you need to do when you're as bad as the Giants are. And you took a swing, you should be happy with it.
Okay, so I've kind of partially come around on the thoughts with Jackson Dart, and where I sit with this is I'm not super against the concept of just drafting a quarterback. I'm very against the disjointed nature of their approach. They can't pick a lane. The rest of the draft class that they had tells me they're a team that thinks with Russell Wilson, you can maybe scrape your way into the playoffs and unexpectedly knock somebody off. It's plausible with the pass rush that they have. It's plausible with the defensive line that they have, adding Darius Alexander. It's plausible with the run game that they have with Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scadaboo. Their offensive line didn't really improve that much, and that's always going to be a question mark. But if some of the young faces, if Evan Neal ends up playing a little bit better this upcoming year, which is a big ask, they could have a pretty good run game this upcoming season, which they produced great results with Tyrone Tracy last year, and nobody thought that he was going to be a 1,000-yard scrimmage guy.
It was a bright spot. It definitely was.
But when you trade up to go and get Jackson Dart, using a pick that was later used to draft Jaden Higgins by the Houston Texans, a guy who would have fit nicely in the current group, who is better than Darius Slayton, who is better than Jalen Hyatt, who would have been more productive than any of those guys. And I'm telling you right now, watch what he does with the Texans. He's going to do some great things. Not having, very similar to what we talked about with the Cowboys, not finding another receiver when the rest of your draft class tells me you're trying to compete now, not having somebody to play alongside Malik Neighbors.
What do you mean?
Completely dampens the whole thing. What do you mean? What do you mean?
You just paid Darius Slayton
Shut
bunch
your
of
mouth.
money, 30
Shut
plus
your
million.
mouth.
That's your wide
Darius
receiver
Slayton
too.
has been
What do you come on? That's
700-yard guy at the most. They need a real number 2 wide receiver, and there were options for them.
Joe, you're forgetting that I believe Joe Shane's daughter goes to Ole Miss, and that's why Jackson Dart had to be drafted.
When you pointed this out to me, this
it's really this is my favorite story. This trumps Shedeur Sanders falling, in my opinion, for most interesting NFL draft storyline. And that is Joe Shane's house is so hilariously out of order. It is a hurricane in that house where the kid spoils the draft pick. They get the draft pick right somehow. The son does. And then more news comes to light that his daughter goes to Ole Miss. Well, why'd they draft Jackson Dart? Well, his daughter is running the show also. And there's also speculation purely here, that Joe Shane's daughter is the reason why Shedeur Sanders was prank called during the draft.
No. The Falcons just put out a statement.
Oh, it was officially Ulbricht's kid?
son. Yeah, they said that they're cooperating with. Yeah, no. So they literally. Schefter just tweeted it out. I opened it up while you were talking a second ago. Ulbricht's son was the one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that kid is going to. Jeff Ulbricht is probably going to send his son to the gulag. That is. I mean, Ulbricht could lose his job over that. By the way.
Well,
and he might actually. He kind of should.
That's really unfortunate then.
To get back what we're talking about here, I honestly think Joe Shane's maybe one of the, and I say this kind of maliciously, he's one of the dumber general managers in the NFL. The way that, and it's kind of to his fault, the way that he looked during the offseason Hard Knocks. He kind of came off as really aloof.
Yeah.
Really
almost arrogantly aloof.
Right. Like he's just blind to how everything should work. It was kind of weird acknowledging the dynamic between Daboll and Shane, where you see that Daboll's the real mastermind here. You can see that he's frustrated, and there's something there with him. I think that Brian Daboll is a good coach, and I think that you can see that he was frustrated with how Shane was moving with some of these decisions that he was making. And I say this to say, it kind of felt like last year when everybody was saying, man, you should have let your son make the decisions. You should have, and I think that he let his son help him make the decision this year. I think that that's what happened.
It's insane. The front office and coaching of New York has been in shambles. It just is. It's been in shambles as long as I've known you personally.
Yeah.
They haven't had an actual solidified leader or anybody that denotes competency in any form or fashion. Also, stock down on Daboll, by the way, because it's also stock down on other coaches that act like schoolgirls when their first-round draft picks enter the building and they have to hug them and squeeze them and set the tone. Set the tone. He's an employee for your team. Brian Daboll going up to Abdul Carter
they just
and
got
giving
the
him
best player in the class, and they didn't have to move.
He was smelling his neck like a schoolgirl. You need to be a leader of men. I know you're excited.
All right.
I just wish that these guys would hold themselves to a more professional standard at times. Be excited. Be as excited as you want. High fives, daps. I don't need to see a big old hug.
Well, Two Giant Goofballs, thanks for tuning in. He left us a nice little message saying, good show. Happy to have other Giants fans on to guest if you guys are interested in doing so. Yeah, would be happy to hop on, shoot us a DM. But I think that a lot of Giants fans kind of understand where I'm coming from with this. I was listening to the WFAN when I was driving to get groceries this morning. The WFAN Sunday morning callers are some of the most interesting callers because they're all 90.
Yeah.
They're all 90-year-old men that live in Freehold, New Jersey. They've been listening to WFAN and calling in on Sundays for decades. Some guy was trying to say that he was like, oh, I'm reporting that the Giants allowed or the Maras demanded that they take Dart or something like that. Like he was trying to come off like he had some sort of information, and the host was like, "No, that's not true. That's not true. That didn't happen."
God, it would. I'm not putting anything past the Giants, though. I will not.
I'm not mocking Freehold. I'm just saying Freehold. I'm just naming a random
Clark
city
for Freehold. What do you got for us today? Come on, Clark. What do you got?
I'm not mocking Freehold. I am a Jersey supporter. I love every part of New Jersey. I will defend every city in New Jersey. Except South Jersey.
I keep on meeting kids, by the way, that are from Central Jersey, and they say they're Central Jersey.
This is my point. If you ask anybody, he says that his mom lives in Manalapan. Manalapan, Central Jersey. It's basically Central Jersey. If you ask anybody in that region, that it's Central Jersey. What do you mean you keep meeting?
Don't you have some beef about Central Jersey that there
I
is?
do.
Or there
Ryan
isn't?
claims that it's non-existent.
Oh,
it is.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Too dense of a state to not acknowledge.
People keep on telling me, "Oh no, I grew up in Central Jersey," I'm like, I thought there was no such thing. I keep on getting pitched that there is no such thing as Central Jersey.
Oh, he said pork roll, egg, and cheese. He's a South Jersey guy. All right, let's move on to it's Taylor Ham. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Falcons here, Sean.
It's redundant is what it is.
You're redundant. The Atlanta Falcons were extremely aggressive, but they made some very odd moves during the 2025 NFL Draft. They double-dipped at edge rusher early. They double-dipped at safety of all positions. And now here we are, a team that needed to restructure their defense in order to dominate the NFC South. Do you believe that the Atlanta Falcons are capable of actually winning the NFC South as we have hyped them up to do so many off seasons over and over again?
Yes, I think they're capable. How strong of a vote of confidence this is from me? It's moderately weak. But yes, they are capable. They have invested finally. I love the double dip. I love the double dip at linebacker and edge, somebody that's going to have hand in dirt or at least aligned on an offensive tackle. I love that. Xavier Watts, watch some film of him with you. Has struggles with some ball tracking, especially in the run game, but I think that he has that Notre Dame defensive back archetype molding where he's pretty disciplined and he knows a lot about football and a good amount of the technique stuff. His instincts need more work, though. The defense is as good as it's been in a long time, and I'm going to date myself back to the William Moore, Thomas Deku years where John Abraham was their sack leader. That was the last time that the defense was not ferocious, but competent. 2016 year when they lost to the Patriots, decent defense, had a pass rush. Vic Beasley's last good year as a Falcon. Grady Jarrett's second year, 3 sacks in the Super Bowl. Thank you very much. Look what the team can do when we have at least a little bit of pressure on the quarterback. The James Pierce Jr. draft pick puts them in contention with the Buccaneers. The Jalen Walker coupling on that draft pick means that maybe they can cover a tight end in the NFC South. That would be fantastic. And they have young pieces. I'm still holding out faith for Troy Anderson. A.J. Terrell's a stud. Jesse Bates is a stud. But every position group has just kind of been a man on an island within the rest of the group. It used to just be A.J. Terrell. It used to just be Jesse Bates. It used to just be Grady Jarrett. And now it's a unit. And how good or bad the unit is, we'll figure it out. But it's not just 3 dudes and 8 others that are just trying to remember their assignments. We might actually have a defense full of football players that could keep the team in a game in the second half, especially in the NFC South with the gaggle of morons in New Orleans in that quarterback room. It should be a pick.
Well, probably the worst draft class, by the way. They picked a lot of nothing, just a lot of dudes, just a lot of bodies. That was one of those draft classes where you're just kind of like, Oh, we need a linebacker. This
Oh.
guy's a linebacker. He plays linebacker.
It's what I live for. It's what I live for is statements like that. I took it easy on Blake this week also. I
Yeah.
took it easy on him.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stick that knife in. But it should be an interception festival against the New Orleans Saints. They should make Bryce Young uncomfortable every game. That should be the goal as he is starting to ascend in the quarterback rankings and become a competent guy. Tampa Bay, nightmare still, because Baker Mayfield, he could either dot you up, which it doesn't matter what your defense is looking like, or we get a nice backbreaking interception in the fourth quarter. But they drafted well. They rebolstered on offense and got some good defensive linemen. They are going to be a big hurdle for Atlanta, but this is the best Atlanta's been in many years.
I said when we taped a brief reaction after the first round, my belief is that if you're trying to be competitive immediately, you got to go all in. And you got to go all in on addressing your needs. So they traded up to go get James Pierce Jr. after they drafted Jalen Walker. They double dipped at secondary. Xavier Watts, there's a projection that Billy Bowman's going to start at nickel or play in the nickel. I just,
as long as it ain't Mike Hughes, I'm cool.
I felt a little weird about that pick. Admittedly, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me after taking Xavier Watts. I know they're different players because Bowman's a little bit more compact, but I feel like he could have addressed a different position. Like, are you completely satisfied with your inside linebacker room? Like, are you completely satisfied with that? You barely touched offense too, which was a little.
They weren't going
to draft a center. There were
No.
centers that you could have drafted, like Jared Wilson, somebody that could have been in consideration, which would have been a nice pick.
What are you doing?
I'm just saying.
Doing?
I'm bringing this all up to say that if you're trying to be competitive right now, you got to go all in on bringing in athletes and smart football players, and they did that. The problem that now comes is that if all of these guys don't hit and they're not ready to impact right now, then you're going to crash out.
Yes.
You're going to fall flat on your
I-
face, and because you're pushing all your chips into the table. That is what this is. You think that Michael Penix is going to take you over the top, so you just need to have a little bit of a backstop for him. But if those guys end up just being mistake-ridden rookies, then it's going to be a little bit tough sledding here. That's all I'm saying here. It goes from being young and exciting to young and frustrating.
You're not wrong. I've had young and frustrating. I have been frustrated. I am tired of these guys. Walker and Pierce Jr. need to have a combined 8 sacks by week 10. I'll give them week 10. They need to have a combined 8 sacks. And then we can let the rest of the season just mold itself from there. That should be the baseline. You two, 8. Give it to me. That means that we're actually getting there, because you're not going to finish every sack, but you're getting close to the quarterback, hopefully. But to your main point, if they don't pan out and they aren't immediate impact starters, then I would predict Raheem Morris is out of the job next year.
Probably.
Terry Fontenot is out as the GM position.
Definitely.
And then the next people to fill in, well, you don't have a first-round pick next year, so we're going to have to do some fancy footwork. This is a big gamble on 2 defensive players being dudes week 1. That's what it needs to be. You can't be 1-4 walking into October looking at a gauntlet row. They're going to have another easy schedule. They've had the easiest schedule in the NFL the last 2 seasons and still ended up in the mix at the bottom of the league. You cannot replicate that again.
All right, we have to, of course, talk about the biggest headline that comes out of the 2025 NFL draft, that being Shedeur Sanders. The Cleveland Browns have the worst quarterback room in the NFL. They have a bunch of guys, and none of which is a clear starter. It begs the question of who is going to start for the Cleveland Browns. And I push out there, I think it should be Shedeur Sanders. Kenny Pickett, we have seen enough times over that he is not a capable starter in this league. He was a mediocre backup as well for the Eagles. His preseason performance this past year was abysmal. It was pathetic. Joe Flacco's 100 years old. He got you guys to the playoffs somehow 2 years ago, but we know that comes to an end eventually. You drafted Dylan Gabriel, who I think had the potential to be one of the best backups in the NFL.
It's a stud.
Now you got to figure out what you're doing there. Do you trade him during the preseason? Do you keep him? Do you cut both of the guys that you brought in free agency through trades? All that stuff. I think that the Browns have nothing to lose currently. and because they have nothing to lose, start Shedeur week 1. He might be a difficult personality. This might have been a forced pick by the owner. And if that was the case, go prove him wrong or go prove him right. Put him out there, make him realize that that was a mistake trying to convince them to draft him, whatever it is. But the upside to this is that he's as good of a starter as everyone has projected. I'm rooting for him. You know, he compares himself to Tom Brady mentally and how he processes the game. Go create your own Tom Brady story. Go resurrect the Browns. This is the best possible situation for him, for everything that everyone has talked about, where he resurrected Jackson State when they were nothing. He resurrected Colorado when they were nothing.
Yes.
Now he gets the chance to resurrect the worst franchise in the NFL over the last 50 years. I think you got to start him. Go see what you have. Go find out if you have something. Please. My whole point with this, before I let you jump in here, you sit him at the start of the season, you start Kenny Pickett. Every talk show in America is going to be saying, including this one, why don't you just let Shedeur go out there? Kenny Pickett looks like shit. Why did you start Shedeur? Why didn't you start Shedeur? Shedeur should start this game. Why didn't you just let Shedeur start?
God forbid Kenny Pickett goes out there, throws for 200 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and they lose in week 1. And then it is effectively
It
Shedeur
becomes
Sanders
a circus.
time. And I'm
Get ahead of the circus. Just let him go out there.
I am officially hashtag Team Shedeur. I've been hashtag Team Shedeur since Jackson State. Full supporter, not crazed supporter like many Shedeur Sanders fans are, or Colorado fans or Deion Sanders fans are, but I am rooting for him. He is a fun player. He is a good quarterback. I think that he could enhance the Browns' offense if he's protected it upright. That's a qualifier that probably doesn't need to get thrown out there because all these other quarterbacks would do better if they were protected and upright. It's going to be a run-heavy system, given their draft, it seems like, with the Judkins pick and the Dylan Sampson pick, both of which I love. I like that the Fannin Jr. is getting in the mix also. Interesting. They're layering the offense. They have weapons. It could be something. We're building, and then we have 4 quarterbacks that can't do anything and one good rookie that didn't interview well or was a little cocky or did a Deion Sanders impression in his interviews, and we're not going to take the wins. We could be looking at a very similar situation to last year where it was the Deshaun Watson show who was tanking the offense and everyone said, just put in the backup, put in anybody over this dude. And now you have somebody that you could actually put in over Flacco or Pickett or Watson. And they likely won't. I don't see him starting week 1.
They probably won't. And
it's going to be a mistake. It's going to be another year of Cleveland not doing the right thing at the quarterback position.
The quick commentary is, he fell this far. Clearly, the NFL doesn't think he's that good. He's not going to be good enough to play all of these things. That's the commentary. But a lot of people still believe that this is the weirdest part about this is like the entire media, except maybe a couple exceptions, all thought that his film was good enough to be an early second-round pick in a bad quarterback class. He would have moved up boards. He's a good decision maker. He's got good poise.
Quick release time.
Him and Jackson Dart, there is not much separation between who they are physically. Jackson Dart's a slightly better athlete. Shedeur Sanders is a slightly better arm. There's really not that much of a difference between what we've talked about, except my thing with Shedeur is that he actually knows how to make decisions. That has been the weird criticism for him throughout all this. But most importantly, if he sucks, go let him suck. Go let him go out there and be awful, because if he's awful, you get a top pick next year. The quarterback class isn't fantastic, but draft Lenora Sellers, draft Cade Klubnik, draft Drew Aller, draft a big, traitsy MFer to go in the complete opposite direction of the goobers that you put together on this quarterback room, and then you start from scratch. I just think that there's nothing to be gained from the current group outside of Shedeur that will do anything for your team.
It would be silly for Cleveland to have let the NFL speak for Shedeur and let the market really talk about how say how they felt about him and his personality and all through the draft. And then Cleveland is like, well, we're not going to let his play speak for him. We're going to just let him ride on the bench and learn and put him in the slow cooker. You guys already spoke. You guys made your statement. Now let's get away from it as fast and easy as possible and just see if the kid can play And you only do that by letting them actually play. And there's not anybody on that team that I would rather say, go ahead. You are better than the swing that we're going to take by starting Shedeur Sanders. I don't see it happening.
All right, we're going to get to Hack of the Week. Before we do, I just want to remind everybody, you see these wonderful fancy hats that we're wearing from Melon. They are some of the best hats that you could possibly get out there. I have been wearing it nonstop. I keep telling you guys this. I wear it into the gym. It's incredibly durable. It's super easy to clean. We wore them golfing last week. It was super reliable. It wicked all the sweat away. It's been getting hot here, so I've been needing a good hat to wear outside when I go for a walk or I'm going walking to the grocery store, whatever it is. And it has gotten the job done. Melon produces the highest quality hats that you can get out there. And you can get one for yourself, for golfing, for working out, whatever it is. They also have a thermal collection for when you need something warm in the winter. So get your hat now before things start to get cold next year. Head on over to melon.com. That's MELIN.com and put it to test yourself. Again, MELIN.com. Go to melon.com to get a hat. All right. Sean, we got to talk about this. Hack of the week this week is the general internet. There is a trend on X right now that people believe 100 people, 100 men could beat a gorilla, a singular gorilla in a fight. Now, I watched this guy have a very scientific breakdown, broke down the anatomy of a gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
Pure muscle, pure muscle.
Big bones, thick
bones, and kind of pointed out there's nothing that you're really going to damage on a gorilla. That's kind of where I'm standing right now. I'm kind of like jumping into the lead here. You're not beating the gorilla. 100 people are not beating a gorilla in a fight. What are they? We're assuming that they've got no weapons, no knives, nothing.
Yes.
They're fist fighting the gorilla.
Hand. Yeah.
100 might overwhelm the gorilla. The gorilla's still got more brute force to power his way through all that.
100 wins. 100 men win.
You think that you're against me on this?
Yes.
Well, how?
Well, the gorilla in a one-on-one fight with no strategy, if it was just 100 dudes coming up challenging a gorilla, then obviously the gorilla is just sitting there hitting the speed bag. Everyone's heads popping off their necks. No one's.
Yes.
Yeah. But in a full-on effort, you got 100 dudes. That's our football team in college.
Uh-huh.
You think you let's just take it on the Rhode
What
Island
are they going to
practice
do to take
field.
him down, though?
Let's just go and let me paint the picture here for you, okay?
You're going to break your own bones trying to punch the thing. So
It's a fight to the death. It's not a fight to see who gets less scathed, okay? Let's put the gorilla on the Rhode Island practice field and our full team. Do you think that the gorilla walks out and leaves the full team dead?
I don't think that's fair because the Rhode Island football team has individuals that are bigger than gorillas.
A gorilla is supposedly 6'3", 400 pounds.
So, okay, so I'm off on the weight. We've got a bunch of 6'5", 6'6" individuals that are 300 plus. So that's not a good comparison. So we're talking about.
We also had dudes on your side of the eye. We had a bunch of wide receivers. I think a football team is a very healthy mix of sizes to be able.
You
to
are
run
an
through.
anomaly. You physically are an anomaly. Your size is an anomaly. You are not a
I don't know
common.
why we're being hurtful on a Sunday.
No. That's nothing. There's nothing hurtful about that. If anything, I'm hyping you up. Someone as big as you is not walking around. You haven't noticed that hey, I'm much bigger than everybody when you're walking through the city. You're getting.
Of course I know. Of course I noticed that. Yeah. Of course.
So the football team's not a good comparison here. We can't use the football team as like a group that would be challenging a gorilla.
I think. But okay, then we can at least. Can we make that the starting point?
100 frat bros.
100 frat bros.
Because there might be a couple big dudes there.
Fine. 100 frat bros. Take the Sig Pi guys.
Sure.
Put them on a field with a gorilla. 100 of them, Joe.
But what are they going to? Okay. My point
They're all going to rush at the gorilla and start striking it in its eyes. And all you need to do is have some guys that are willing to get a little dirty and go thumb in the eye. That guy dies, thumb in the eye. Eventually, you're going to get to that brain because it's an easy access point. You're not going to – I don't need guys coming and punching the gorilla. I need guys that are going to go rip off its genitals, stick a hand in its crank hole, and then really play dirty. I'm talking trying to rip its armpits out, trying to –
Okay, I get all that, but
look at the soft spots.
But my point is that the ability for the gorilla to generate force
Mm-hmm.
on a single swipe breaks bones of like 3 to 4. Like you could have 4 people rush at once, and a single swipe is going to completely blast those people. Like they're going to be writhing in
There's
pain.
100. You knock out
ribs.
3 there. And apologies to Bullet in the chat who just came in asking a nice, honest Tampa Bay Buccaneers question about the draft. And then WTF is this talk? Apologies. We talked draft for the first 40 minutes here. This is more important than the draft.
Yeah, you could pan back to the beginning.
Joe, how the fight? And I see people saying the stamina fight, like, oh, if we have 100 dudes, we could just constantly circle and try to pick away at it.
By the Rack wants to know what a crank hole is.
He'll use some context clues, Rack. I'm sure you'll figure it out. How would you stop a dog from biting another dog? One solution, and it's not with the jaws. You're not going to be able to pry the jaws
open. That's the
open.
only strategy that I agree with. I think if somebody's willing to stick their hand up the gorilla's ass, that's how you're going to slow it.
It's not going to be happy. It's really, maybe it makes it angry, but then you're in control. You have to play dirty like an animal would to beat the animal. We're not sitting up here saying
this is
we're boxing the gorilla. That is a bad game plan.
I'm not pitching that. I'm not saying that you're going up, you're just trying to punch the shit out of the gorilla. That's not going to do any
That's what
damage.
you would do.
And I ain't sticking my hand up its ass.
That's going to be your role. Look at
I'm hanging in the back.
Look at your fingers. Your spindly fingers would be perfect for that.
I'm hanging
That's
in the back.
your role.
I'm
hanging in the back.
I'm hanging in the back. You're the lead dog.
Joe's
man.
trying
You're
to be the
front.
broadcaster of the end of the world here.
You're front of the
reporting on the
line.
news.
You're front of the line.
Oh no! I'm a closer. I'm a closer. I am
No.
put my legs around his neck in a figure 4 chokehold. And try to get the glove off Thanos. That's what my role is going to be.
People keep pointing out, by the way, that everybody is going to be talking about the first guy who rushes the gorilla.
Yeah.
That guy is going to be pounded into hamburger meat.
That's tough. Then we're going to have to draw straws.
Yeah, we got to figure out who's going to be the. Yeah, I don't know if there's a way that you come out of that one unscathed if you're the first guy who makes contact.
You take one for a team there.
And
you're a legend.
My just general problem is we're assuming that all 100 can converge so quickly that the gorilla can't react and can't create space for himself. Now, the one thing I will concede is that the gorilla's not going to be smart enough. The gorilla's not going to. This is why humans generally have evolved to outsurvive animals, is that we are tactile, we're strategic.
Mm-hmm.
We're unlike other animals. We can actually prepare and outmaneuver whatever we're going up against.
This is a great football question because Steve Spagnuolo could coach 100 frat bros into killing a gorilla. He could.
You're kind of turning me.
Actually,
you're kind of turning me. I gotta be honest. I'll admit when I'm wrong.
With football, the strategy is get past. We got to get to this guy. We got to get to this guy in a creative, unexpected, very timing focused fashion. We can do that. We're capable. I don't need the special forces in Sicario to come in and get this animal down. We could do it, fellas. Now, I don't know how much help you're doing, but you have a role now, and that your role is to get in the nitty gritty.
I ain't sticking my hand up a gorilla's ass. I don't care how important.
Oh, now you're just being. That's just graphic for the listeners. Language, please. It is a Sunday.
All right, let's get to the hack bag. 201-834-4308. Do we get any voicemails? Until you start coming in here, until you start putting it in.
The mail never stops.
This is
we
the
gotta
Hack
listen to Wayne
Bag.
Knight.
Hit us on Twitter for questions or call at 201-834-4308.
201-834-4308. Until you start putting in the doc, hey, we have X amount of voicemails. Before when we sit down, you start saying, hey, we've got a voicemail today. I'm going to keep asking you. It's my new bit. Just like the other new bit that I came up with yesterday, which is putting mouthwash in your mouth and then making a bunch of noises for 4 minutes while you're trying to get ready to leave to go to a bar. That's the new bit.
I was certain that you were the disrespectful mouthwash spit out also where you placed it opposed to where you could have.
It's going to get washed away. No, never mind. Yeah, that's a good point.
I wonder what.
It's not going to stay in the ground.
Why.
It's not going to stay in the ground. It's just going to. I bet that I didn't see it when I left today to go to the grocery store.
Let's listen to a voicemail now of an unnumbered total, and then after the voicemail, we'll react and see if we have another. How about we do that? Okay.
Hey, Bobos. I don't know what your problem is. It's Thursday evening. I'm driving home from work. I've got laundry to do. I've got dishes to do. I've got a drive to make, and you didn't record a show. And this is like.
There was a draft going on.
routine. I listen
I'm not
to
gonna
it on
dox
home, and
who
I do my
this
laundry,
is.
and then I go grab a drink or something with my friends. I don't know what your deal is. I really don't. I don't know. What else was I supposed to do? Not
All right,
be a
lose me
loyal
with the fake
listener?
outrage
Not
also.
depend on
Trying
you?
to act
I think
angered.
I mean, come on.
This is the, do
Love you
it. Put
guys.
on a better act. Put on a better act if you're actually outraged.
it's
at
a
us.
voicemail. The person can't talk back to you.
She's gonna listen to it. She's gonna listen to it.
Yeah,
There was a draft going on. What are we gonna react during the draft?
Yeah, we were indisposed.
I don't appreciate being called out.
That was just a voicemail from a listener.
All right. Well, I do appreciate the passion.
We
they missed the show.
We try very hard to make sure we get 3 shows a week.
I appreciate the consistency that she consistently reminds us that we didn't do a show. I appreciate that.
Get crushed. She didn't even crush me on Thursday. She said, I'm taking this to the voicemail line at 201-834-4308.
Well, I'm glad.
Normally, it's a phone call or a mean text. Hey, where is the show at?
Well, I appreciate that. All right. Next one.
If we have a next one, then I will play after I click this button. Let's see.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Sean. It's Dan Teets. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I was just curious what you thought about our draft class in general. Derek Harmon to me feels like a great way to future-proof that defensive line. But looking at the rest of the class, I'm not really excited. Caleb Johnson's pretty much just a Najee Harris replacement, and he was already becoming a bit of a controversial player in Pittsburgh. Will Howard's going to play probably 4 games this year, get benched at some point. And Jack Sawyer's the 4th best pass rusher on the team. So I really feel like they didn't add a ton of value outside of the first round. But just curious in your general thoughts on what the Steelers did through the draft.
Shout out to Sam, by the way. He's been a long-time listener of all the content that we do. Appreciate him calling in. Here's where I stand. Derek Harmon, great pick. He's versatile. You could either keep Keanu Benton at nose. Keanu Benton could play that DN spot and Harmon plays nose. Like, you can be creative because you have so many different body types. Yahya Black is a depth player, but again, fitting the archetype of defensive tackles that you keep drafting. These long, tall, flexible defensive tackles. I like that. I tweeted this out. Jack Sawyer is not going to do much, but he's like, could you have picked a better Pittsburgh
Steeler through
big white dude with an arm sleeve? Are you kidding me?
Passionate.
No one thought it
loves football.
To this point, nobody thought Alex Highsmith was going to become like a premier elite player, and he's been super productive for you. So I think that something could be unlocked with Jack Sawyer. He's got a pretty high motor. He could be a rotational guy, so it's not bad. I liked the Caleb Johnson pick. I thought that was another one coming into the draft. I was like, why do I feel like the Steelers are going to take Caleb Johnson on day 2? Well, and they did.
Every running back in Pittsburgh runs for 1,000 yards. Caleb Johnson can do that. It's just what they do. I'm not blown away by it. I like the Will Howard pick. Congrats, Pittsburgh. We know what you're doing at quarterback.
Shout out to Ryan. Ryan pointed this out. They just drafted younger Mason Rudolph.
Oh, that's great. Love
it. Big white hoss that threw a bunch of yards and did some things in college. That's it.
So Pittsburgh effectively,
this is like a
still
B
waiting
draft.
on Rodgers.
B draft. I think that they got to go after Kirk. I got asked this today on Sirius when I was doing a spot this morning. You got to go after Kirk. You need Kirk. It's your only option.
It can't be Rudolph or Howard. And I'm excited to have Howard in the room and see if they can make something out of that big horse and see if he can play quarterback in the NFL.
That really is what he is. He's just a big horse.
I love big horses. Love them. But quarterback
coming from a big horse himself.
You don't see many big horses coding. And playing quarterback is kind of the real life version of being a cracked out coder where you have to know everything about the infrastructure and the hardware.
Sure.
Horses aren't good at that, but horses can be great.
That is the most apt. Oh my God, that is the craziest way of putting. I don't think you could have better described why some quarterbacks don't work.
Yeah, it's fine. Blake Bortles is in that category too.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones,
big horse.
You just know that if you were to put them in front of that that laptop, that their faces would look like mine, and it would go like this. And then they'd start going into La La Land in their brain. And
start plugging in formulas into a cell, buddy.
Yeah. So
what do you mean?
It's fine for Pittsburgh. You got to make a play. They have every year, Pittsburgh, and I'll always credit them this, they have the capabilities of putting together a really good football team. Now you just need to figure out the quarterback position that can keep you at that level, or else you're going to teeter and you're going to just barely make the playoffs and keep Mike Tomlin's job. enough from Steelers fans also about it's time to move on from Tomlin, bruh. It's time. He's worn out his welcome. He is keeping a fantastic.
Any other coach with this roster is floundering. This man, and look, okay, maybe this is like the kind of, the Madden rebuild-esque approach of like, hey, maybe the fact that you're constantly at the edge of the playoffs is the reason why you're not getting back to Super Bowl contention, because you can't get low enough to draft a quarterback. It's an apt thing to bring up. Next year, if whoever you bring in, you need to trade up. Everyone always talks about, is it really worth trading up? Panthers trading up for Bryce Young probably wasn't a good decision because you needed all the other draft capital to build the rest of your roster. Steelers are the definition of a team that should sell everything to move up. Because you without having a young, trait-filled horse, Drew Aller would be perfect.
Yeah,
because he's a little bit of a smarter horse, but he's still a horse.
But here's the problem also. If Mike Tomlin does have a season where he gets 3 wins and has a top 5 pick, if it's this year and they really are not a good team and they cannot string together wins, the line to get Mike Tomlin out of the building will still be long because all the dummies will associate that with him losing his touch. No. That would be the perfect scenario here because you still have a great coach, a very good team, lots of promise and good players. And now you're drafting your quarterback of the future. Holy hell.
Yeah.
Everything's there for you. And you're still trying to run him out of town. You cannot win with the fans. Keep Tomlin there forever. Keep him there forever. What a joke seeing them trying to push him out. I'm sure you can do better. You happy with your coaches the last 10 years, Joe?
No.
You happy with all of them?
No.
I'm very much displeased with my coaching for the last 10 years. 90% of NFL franchises and fans would echo the same sentiment.
We've got time for one more.
All right. This came in a DM from Bear Claw Media. Thank you. If you don't feel like tweeting at us at Hack City Pod, you can DM us. Our DMs are open. Mailbag Q. Dead or alive, who would you pick for your celebrity lookalike? My picks: Sean, Luke Combs, Joe, Jeffrey Dahmer.
You can't give yourself that quality of that's hubris.
That's what he said. That's what Bear Claw. Those were his picks. Their picks, rather.
That was his picks.
Yes.
All right.
Mailbag
Q.
You,
Bear Claw.
Dead or alive, who would you pick for your celebrity lookalike?
Y'all
My
just
picks:
doing it.
Sean, Luke Combs, Joe, Jeffrey Dahmer.
You don't look like Luke Combs, and I don't look like Jeffrey
Dahmer.
Dahmer.
Why am I getting crushed?
I don't look like Jeffrey Dahmer.
I was at one point.
Don't look like Luke Combs.
I was at one point called Chris Pratt by a girl.
You don't
that was nice.
Look like Chris Pratt.
I look like old Chris Pratt.
No,
Fat Chris
you
Pratt.
don't.
Fatter Chris Pratt.
You don't look anything like Chris Pratt.
That's what I was called. Steve McMichael would work. R.I.P. His lovely soul.
That one doesn't work either.
Who's Mongo? You've called me that, jackass.
Oh, Mongo.
Yeah. Who do you think played him? Steve McMichael.
I forgot. That one's not bad.
It is Dahmer
Mason
for
Graham. Mason Graham. Screw you.
I was getting crushed on Thursday because you had Mason Graham go, who's got the chin, and then Will Campbell, who's got the, and I'm just fielding texts. Sean got drafted. Hey, congrats, Sean. Hey,
twice.
Hey, what do you buy your mom's a house now, Sean? Stop texting me when big white dudes with this particular chin hair are in the.
Well, you couldn't have more of the big white dude.
I know. I'm half
facial
complaining
hair.
here. It's tough.
I've gotten Tom Holland, and I've gotten.
That is ridiculous.
I had a dude who was on a bike who was biking past me while I was walking into a convenience store. This was like a month ago. Who shouted like, "Hey, yo, you look like Spider-Man!" And then he just scooted past me. That's not even. I'm not even making that up. What was the other one? What's the Taron Egerton's the other one I get?
Who's that?
He plays the gorilla in Sing, and he also is in the Kingsman.
He voices the gorilla in Sing. He doesn't play him because it's a voice acting
that's
job.
A crazy thing to say to me.
Yes. That is not.
That's a crazy thing to say. Wait, by the way, before we close out here, we didn't unpack what happened at the bar yesterday. So we were standing at the bar, and this girl walks up to Sean and pokes. Can we talk about this? What are we doing?
Down bad dudes?
No. This isn't a down. This girl walks up to. We're standing there watching the game, and this girl comes up, pokes Sean, and I'm like, not your normal girl comes up and wants to get your phone number situation. I'm like, this is odd. This is something's off here. starts trying to like whisper something into your ear, and I'm just standing like an idiot. I'm trying to move away because I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna let you do whatever you're trying, whatever's happening here.
Appreciated it.
She didn't speak English, any English, or maybe
Very little.
Or was she doing a bit?
I don't know. She was speaking Spanish in my ear.
What was she saying to you?
She wanted me to buy 2 Coronas.
Okay, so can you elaborate?
Yeah. So me and Joe are out and walking in. Obviously, I'm scanning the bar, watching the game, scanning the bar. This girl's been dancing on her man for like
dumpiest dude in the bar.
30 minutes while we're there. Like just consistently, he's sitting down. She's kind of grinding on him. Like, okay, cool. That they're just dancing. No problem with it. Walks up to me, big honky, thinks that I'm going to be immediately smitten and just buy us 2 drinks or buy her 2 drinks just because she's making Bambi eyes at me. I say, all right, you want a Corona? I'll get you a Corona. That's fine.
Well, so what did she say to you? She said, buy me a drink.
Could we get 2 Coronas? And I'm like, I'll get a Corona. That's fine. But she when the Coronas come, she starts grabbing both Coronas. I'm like, well, that's not how this works. This one, pour me. And that's what I said to her. That's for me in Spanish. And she was not happy. She takes the one lone Corona back to her boyfriend, who she didn't say was Novio. I asked her Novio, which is it's either husband or boyfriend or something like that in Spanish. And she says, no, amigo or hombre, not relationship words in Spanish. So I'm like, okay, you're lying because I clocked you dancing on homeboy for 30 minutes.
I didn't realize she took the beer with her though.
Yeah,
she brought it back.
No, she comes back with a beer, and then she like comes back trying to get the other Corona that I had for myself. I already had Heineken. I hadn't started working on the Corona yet, and she doubles back on me trying to get the other Corona.
So she never ended up taking the beer.
No, that's when I drank it,
good.
And then she went, oh, and I'm like, yeah. What did you think was? I told you, pour me. I literally said
this was the weirdest thing ever. I can't believe somebody thought that was acceptable.
I was literally like, cerveza, pour me, and then I drank it, and then she was upset, and then I started Fortnite emoting in her face with a little Millie Rock.
This was even the funniest part about this is that there's 2 parts that are weird. She didn't speak any English, and she still thought that like what she was doing was like normal.
She thought she could get over. She thought she could get over on the kid. But like, she kind of did, but I don't.
Wait, but here's where the confusion is that if you don't speak English, how do you think that you're going to manipulate you enough into? Did she think she was pretty enough to just completely manipulate you into buying 2 beers?
I think,
and then walking away.
I think she's constantly running this game with her man where they'll go out and try to drink for free, picking on the big guy. They ain't getting any huzz, so they'll just get.
I don't know how that guy was with that girl. By the way, he was short and fat and very unattractive.
They're just running the gambit. I'm like, okay, you run the gambit.
Yeah, I bet he's been drinking too many free beers. Yeah, he looks like he's been drinking too many free beers. If you,
the lady, want a beer, I'll get you a beer.
Well, even if she's there with a guy, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. What am I gonna do?
It's funny. No, go back to tell your boyfriend to buy you a beer.
It's funnier that way. That she's coming back and they either have to split a beer or he splits a beer or he has the beer now. And she's
I wouldn't buy anyone's shit. I wouldn't buy anyone's shit in that situation.
I was perfectly happy to buy a beer to say, no, that dude ain't getting a beer. I'm not buying a beer for you 2 just because we're at the same bar. That's not happening.
Especially with how expensive those
were. She was lucky I didn't Cam Warder. I was this close to doing this, but I thought that might have been a little inflammatory and I didn't need. And look at my backup at the bar sitting across from me.
Hey,
not doing much. Well, I think she could have taken you.
At Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. Call in 201-834-4308. We'll talk to you folks later. Enjoy the rest of your week.